Hello, I am Calvin Doyle, and today I am here with Ryan Hoey, who runs his own graphic design practice in Athlone, County Westmeath. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Calvin Doyle.
What's going on? We have a disclaimer to make. Ryan is my cousin, so if Ryan sounds like we sound like each other, we were both grew up together and live very close together, so we often get confused through our voices.
Also, bit of cronyism going on there as well on the podcast. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
uh,
I said I'd get you on the first thing because Ryan, you started your own graphic design practice and you specialize in brand identity and websites.
yes.
Okay. Tell me this, right? So we're kind of looking into like why people start businesses and how they start businesses and what the philosophy behind the businesses is that they start and things they've learned as well. Because I think a lot of the time when people start a business or even when you're working in a business, you can take a lot from different people's philosophies on how they work. So when you started to practice, what was one of the striking things that you realized you had to get better at that you didn't really think you would?
Well, communication number one. Communication, absolutely. Communication and discipline in myself because when you know yourself from being in design school, you have to be disciplined, but like it's a little bit like it's very different from all the rest of your walks of life that you've probably done. For me, anyways, like I was doing, I worked in a few shops, tried to do
Yeah.
a business course, and design school can be kind of the opposite of those things. Now you can do it either way, but mine was opposite anyway. Didn't care about what time it was, didn't care about how much work I was doing because I was always doing loads of work. Like, but when you're in your own business, then like if you do that, then you're going to have an old unhappy brain on you.
Yeah.
So, but even bigger than that, though, probably communication, because communication was something that maybe I kind of lacked a little bit, even in college. Not maybe not saying if I had a problem with something or not finding out enough about what the project is. So, communication number one.
Yeah, communication's huge. So both me and Ryan studied in AIT, and we studied graphic design in AIT, and it's a really good course, excellent course
Mm.
for teaching you creativity because we work in a creative industry, right? It's actually quite difficult to learn everything because you have to learn how to be creative, come up with creative ideas, how to uh, apply those ideas, how to make them a reality. And then you also, like what you're talking about, is the communication. There is a gap between you and what you make and the customer or the client.
Yeah.
You have to try bridge that gap. But you can't learn everything in college because the thing I think about business is and that communication thing, you have to be in the live
Mm.
situation of dealing with a client to realize like where they're coming from. Because a lot of times clients can't think creatively, or if you are explaining an idea to them, they might not really be able to understand what you're talking about. And also on top of that, you can kind of undersell stuff as well. If you don't explain it properly, something that you think is very important, they might not think it's that important. And that's kind of what I learned as well, is that's your job to learn how to
Well,
do
that's a
that.
big one. That's a really big one that you just said there, that you might undersell something. And I learned that in a big way just doing that project with you there. I was not even underselling, but underthinking. I was not thinking about elements of the project as being really important when in fact they were the most important thing to the client. What I'm really concerned about was, does the typography look cool? Things like that. But like to put it in perspective, like I would think about something like a sandwich board sign as not being as important. Probably as a knock-on effect of design school, because in design school we're all trying to be cool.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah. You're kind of designed for your peers. That happens in all design students. You're grow up in an environment where you're designing for designers.
And even your lecturer is a designer. And
Yeah,
I think even to an extent they might do the same thing as you would in a project because they just want you to be the best that you can be And on the idea side of things, that's the most impressive thing when you're in college. Like, how far can you push an idea? So that could be the maddest thing ever. But then in the real world, like, the simplest things make a big difference to a business locally, like signage, something like that. And I learned that big time there working with you. You were able to kind of pull that out for me a little bit more. So that was good. And that's the next thing kind of about running your own business is, like you were saying, you're learning on the job.
Yeah.
All the time. Live. That's the best way to learn, I think. I think it's probably the only way to learn.
Yeah. And one of the big things I thought I learned when I started working with clients was that I needed to listen more. I didn't listen. I was always filling up the empty space with me talking all the time and trying to come up with the answer before I even knew the problem.
Yeah.
So that was a really big one for me. You know, the main thing when you're a designer and you're working in branding and marketing even, or website design or any sort of design, your whole core goal is to fulfill is to your core goal is to communicate something with the business's customer.
Mm-hmm.
And your real goal is to make the business more money.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I never knew when I left college. I didn't really understand that fully.
No. And as well, like, you won't get a lot of that through doing, so in your projects, when you're doing like your typical design research, you won't get a lot of that in your typical design research. If you're like, even if you're looking at the best places for the best design in those projects, like, you might a lot of them, you might get people who are kind of entering awards and stuff like that. So they don't have the simplest thing that can make the business the most money. A lot of times.
Yeah, and sometimes I think people don't understand that a lot of design awards, a lot of the projects aren't real. They're not actual projects, so they might look very cool. So sometimes when you come out of college, you go and you're doing a project, and then next thing, your first project's a hairdresser, and they want a certain look, and you're like, oh, this isn't really like this really cool hairdressing design brand that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I want to do, that I seen in all the the design blogs and things. I want to do a really cool one. But the hairdresser you're getting hired for might be targeting 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
So you have to make it suitable for the 50-year-olds. So you have to understand the customer first and then design it to what that customer would like and how you would attract that customer in. And I think what happens when you're just out of college is you're too fixated on looking cool and doing cool design. And
you're looking for clout.
Yeah. So you're like, you would just make it look the way you want to make it, which is a kind of an ego issue as well. So what you really have to do is make it the way the customer would want it, because this is not about you.
Well, when you're designing like that, you're actually designing for your website.
Yeah, you're designing for your portfolio, and that's wrong.
That's what you're trying to do there. And that's something I check myself about all the time. I always have to check myself with that. Like, it's not for me. And then if you're designing like that, like, the gap between the business and the customer is too massive, and they're not going to relate with that. This cool thing that I found on Behance, they don't care about that.
And you can make it look cool, and it can look cool and that, and it can be good for your portfolio and everything, but it doesn't actually fulfill the job that you've been hired to do. And the client won't be too happy about that either. All the time. And then a lot of people I find all the time ask me, like, oh, what are the cool projects that you work on and that? And I just think they're all cool, because what I like about a project is it doesn't matter what it is. You're solving some sort of a problem. Mm-hmm. And if you can solve that problem through design and make it look whatever, sometimes the design at the end of it is not something that you would be like, I really like that designer, that's to my taste, but it might be perfect for the customer. You know what I mean? So you just have to let go of the ego and enjoy the process of figuring out that little problem that you have to solve, and just go with it and do it.
But there's a lot of ego stuff involved in it, and a lot of like you were saying there, redefining what cool is. Nothing's cooler than having the customer be really happy with you at the end of it, and then having the whole thing work for them. That's the coolest thing.
Yeah. And like it took me probably 2 years to get rid of that ego thing. And I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
I just thought everyone else was wrong and I wasn't. But when I started getting into business and dealing with the different clients, and when I started to listen more to what they needed this project to do, for example, like someone would hire you, I need a new website. And first thing I used to be thinking was, how do I make it look good? But what they might need the new website is to take it on appointments for their business, so that the appointments go straight to their email and it goes straight onto their Google Calendar, so that they never have to set up appointments anymore in their business. And they don't have to waste 20 minutes every day sending out emails. So now they've an hour free every week or 2 hours free every week to do that. And it's working, and that's actually helping grow it. So I would never think this stuff, but and how to make that so simple for the customer to understand but I'd be thinking more so like, how do I make this look minimal, like Apple, way Apple looks.
I love the way they do the menu on Apple. It's class.
And what happens is sometimes you're coming in and the client's just like, what is this?
Jesus, that's rotten. But like, as well from talking to people that you're working with, that the number one thing that people have a problem with when working with designers is bad communication.
Number one.
They're not listening to what the person needs. They're not telling the person what they need. And then they arrive then at the end of the project with a website then, or a logo or colors or whatever. And they haven't seen anything. So it's like, that's what I have found anyway from chatting to people. One of the main things that clients say to me when I'm talking to them first is, I was working with a lad there and couldn't get him on the phone, and I was sending him emails, and then, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's like 90% of my job is chatting to people and talking to people and finding out stuff.
Yeah, learning how to talk. That was actually the next thing I was going to ask you. What is the thing that most of your clients are saying? And you're right, that I also get that as well, that the majority of clients have had a bad experience with mostly a web designer.
Yes.
And then if not a web designer, someone that was kind of helping them make their brand or something. And the thing would be, they won't communicate with me. I just told them kind of what I wanted, and they went off and met it. And a few weeks later, then they came back with it. And like, that's just not the way it works, because that's not the way it works. It doesn't work like that.
I was talking to a guy this morning who was saying, like, I have my logo there, and like he was basically saying, like, I'm really meticulous with details. And so the logo designer was, we were doing it for 3 months. He'd come with a version, and then we'd work on a different version, a different version, and a different version for 3 months, he said. And like, that's not good, because all that's like, you should never have designed something without having this stuff worked out. The two of you, not just the designer and the client, two of you agree on it before it's done. Not the exactly what it is, but I just know that there was such a lack of communication on the designer's part, not the client's part. The designer, he's the problem.
And it's always the designer's fault with this stuff as well. This is one thing I learned as well. You have to blame yourself, for a vast majority of it, if you want your job to be easier. And with that particular one, right, what happens there is that the designer makes the mistake of thinking that they're designing the logo for the client.
Mm-hmm.
When they're not designing it for the client, they're designing it for the client's customers. And they didn't ask enough questions. Well, I don't know that, but they don't ask enough like, if you're designing a logo based on, I'm going to make this design now, I hope the client likes it, that you're already doing something wrong there, because it should be you and the client working together to make something for the customer.
That's like a client saying to you, I love orange, I'll make the logo orange. It's no good. It's not about you. It's like, the logo is a signal for the customer, not the client.
That's a big one. That is a big one. Like, so it's like, you have to focus on that. So you actually have to what I realized was you have to, you're going working with a client, right? So let's say someone owns a burger shop, right? Just sell burgers. Like, they don't know a whole lot about the process of of how to brand the business. They know about how to make really good burgers, serve good burgers, good customer service. They know a lot of stuff, but they don't know the process of how to make a logo. So they might think, yeah, I just make a burger. I like burger. I want an orange burger, right, or whatever, right? But it's the designer's job to be like, well, that's good, right? But let's think about who this is for, right? So who is your logo for? Because the reason for you making the logo, right, is we want to appeal to those people that are going to come in and spend money in your burger shop.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to really find out who those people are first before we design anything, and we'll let them dictate how it should look, how it should feel, what colors we should use, what way we should talk, what way we should write our copy. So we need to find out first who the customers are, then we create for them, because they're the people who are bringing you in money here. And then when you just do that, then they're like, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. Actually, let's do that because I love money.
At the end of the day, like clients aren't going around working on branding jobs all the time. Like,
Never.
they're not just walking around working with designer or doing some sort of creative project all of the time. Like, they're not. It's just the way it is. And it's another one of the common things that designers will say to you is they just wanted this, so I give them that. And that's you're not doing you're doing them a disservice there, because it's your job. Like, you're the business.
Yeah, that's notorious thing that people do, and that's just it. People do that a lot. But I think the problem with that is it gives designers a bad name. I recently had a job that I pitched. We were not pitching for, but someone came to us and we were pitching it, and the company wouldn't get on board because they've been burnt by designers so much. And what happened was they spent a lot of money, and same thing, the designer just did. I can see when that happens sometimes, where a designer just does what the client says.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem, is because the like you said, the client doesn't know anything about branding, but they're just telling you what to do. Maybe you need to step up and have a process there to guide them through first, to say, this is the process of how we do it. We discover stuff and then we go on and design some stuff, or something like that. But don't just sit back and let them tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Because that's not the way it works. And that costs you a lot of money, because
that could make a 1 month project 6 months.
Yeah, because you're going on someone's personal opinion.
Yeah, that will make 3 versions, 12 versions, basically.
Yeah. So whenever you're thinking, no, I'll just do whatever they say at this stage. Well, first of all, that will happen, right? If you're only leaving college, because that just happens. All of this stuff will just happen to you. You have to learn yourself. But you've probably already made a mistake there. Like, if you've got to that stage of the project and you're saying that, you probably already fucked up at the start, where you should have laid out. You probably should have done something better there at the start as well. So
yeah, totally. And like you were saying, like, it's like, it's not even something, not saying that to make some designer feel bad or anything. It's actually just that has happened to everybody, and that's how you learn. Like, it's just a little bit of an experience probably from dealing with people head on. I think a lot of times it can happen to designers in-house if they're working under somebody, and they're like a young designer. I think that can happen, but like, it's just like a hurdle to get over. It's not something really to feel too bad about. It's just actually you have to learn a lesson from it.
Yeah. And it's all lessons, because you will do crap projects. I've done so many crap projects. I think it was 2 years before I even made a project properly that worked, that did a really good job for the customer. It's a whole new thing to learn. When you can't learn it in college. You learn in college how to be a designer. Mm-hmm. Then when you leave college, you have to learn how to be a business person, mix that with the design process. So it's like, you have to get out there to do it. So you'll just fuck up loads of stuff. You'll mess up, you'll do loads of bad projects. And the main thing I think to do is to learn from each one. Write down why did that go bad, that one? Mm. Or if something annoyed you on it, like, what was it? What could I do that would change that?
Same way if something goes really right, like what was it that made it good? Because there'll always be something clear about it that made it good, and more, you'll know what it is as well. You'll know why one feels right and one feels wrong, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The the way both of us actually did this is the same, but oh no, you actually a little bit different, right? So this is just talking about a graphic designer leaving college and going into the workplace. They say this, right? When you leave college, you should go working in-house somewhere for a while and then start your own business.
Yeah.
I tend to believe that you can just start your own business.
Yeah.
You worked in a place for like a year and then started, so you kind of did it, but not a whole lot. What do you think? Do you need to do it, or could you just go straight out and do it?
I think you could just go straight out, to be honest with you now. I think, well, you could do it. So, like, you know, you were able to do it. Now, I mean, I went and worked somewhere because I was in college. And then just before I finished college, someone offered me a job to work in house. So I was like, I haven't had much money to hold.
Unreal.
Let's see what this is all about. This money crack. Let's get a bit of money. And yeah, like helped me in loads of ways, I suppose. Like it helped me. Number one way is the transition between college and work is your workload is way more when you're not in college, but your workload feels like more when you're in college, you know, because you might do 3 projects a semester. So I think that what that developed in me was a little bit of being precious about work, being precious about the projects.
Perfection kills profit. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I can't fuck this up because, you know, you have 3 projects. But so then when you're going into work, make a poster in an hour or 2 hours. It's like, oh man, I would have spent 2 months on that and got it. So that was one thing it was really good for. If I can name one thing that was good for, but I do think that somebody could just leave college and start business if, like, I think you could do it.
Yeah, I don't think you need to go in-house somewhere like necessarily, because you can kind of pick up bad habits there sometimes as well. And
I think you pick up more bad habits than good habits.
Yeah. And I don't think it's the be all and end all, even getting into the big. Now, they're 2 different animals. You might not ever want to go out freelance either. You might be an in-house kind of person. And that's like, you know, that's it's like said, well, that's fine. But I mean, like, that's like it's, but what I mean is like, that might be just what you want to do. But if you always are like, I always want to start my own studio, I wouldn't go. I'd just go and do it. I think learn.
Yeah, and you know what? That was actually something that, because I always did want to do that. I always wanted to start my own. But do you know what it was? Is I left it in the back of my mind and never really pulled it out that much until I was working somewhere, and I was like, for me, this is not the thing that I wanted to do. I'd like to try this other thing.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, very good. Let me think now. Is there anything else I was going to ask you? No, I think that's about it, Ryan.
I hope you've learned as much from me as I have from you.
I did. I really learned that, and it was very good. And I think, you know, it's very important for young designers can hear this stuff, because I never had it when I was leaving. I got very confused. I think it slowed my progress up a little bit. So I just think, the communication thing is very important. The discipline. Oh yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you one last thing. Discipline. The discipline thing is massive.
Yeah, huge. Because I am by nature an undisciplined person.
Me too, man. I'm bad at, really bad. I was really undisciplined when I first started working for myself, and I had to learn very quickly how to get disciplined.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, the discipline might mean a different thing than what you originally think it is. Because sometimes discipline is doing less than more.
Yeah.
Because working for yourself and working in general is all about your energy. Like, where's your energy at? Are you bringing a good thing or are you bringing a bad thing? Are you fucked? Are you feeling good? Generally, if you're too fucked, you might do fucked work. So
yeah, you'll do bad work, and there is that thing, you know, work 24/7 when you own your own business and you never stop working, and it's very negative mindset to do. You need to be treating yourself like an athlete nearly. You need to be getting rest days. You need to be getting good sleeps, good food.
It's the main thing.
Yeah.
The Conor McGregor fight there, whoever, like they didn't just wake up in the morning, train all day, then train all night, and then wake up and train in the morning and train all night. Like, you don't, like, if they do that, they don't make it to the fight.
No, no, you burn yourself out and you do bad work. And what happens is you can't deal with stress too well when you're tired either. You can't, you overthink things and then you make weird decisions and you're not creative. Your creativity gets really drained when you don't sleep and you don't take time off. So when you're in college, it's very fun. I used to always do in college, pull all nighters all the time, stay up with lads, have do stuff.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a laugh. But
it's
when it comes,
different.
yeah, it's different then because you're doing projects for yourself. They're fun projects, but when you get out, you're doing projects for businesses, and you have deadlines and stuff. If you're staying up really late at night and you're trying to work through the night to get things done, it just your overall quality of life starts to get a little bit worse. And I think working on that really hard, and that's probably with anyone that owns their own business. Like if you're working all weekend on your own business and all week and you're not taking days off, that's affecting your business. That's
Mm.
really affecting your business. And if you're doing that, it's either time to hire someone to help you, or start collaborating with people, send out some work, because I can't stress enough how bad that is for you.
Like we're all human, you know what I mean? And like we all need that balance. And it's not that just because you have your own business, then you don't need a balance. Because I have a business, and that just means I have to work all of the time. It's like maybe a lot of your time could be spent thinking about how you can work a little bit more effectively than working more and working around the clock.
That's what I do now a lot. Like a lot of my time is spent. How can we run Studio Great more effectively? How can I work less hours but get more done?
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing about work
And
now.
that's the beauty about you having your business, is that you're in control of that. You're in control of like, how can I make this better? And a lot of times, like a lot of people aren't in control of that because they don't control the timetable and they don't control the schedule. So that's something that everybody that runs their own business, I think, should take advantage of, rather than fall into that trap of just being fucking wrecked all the time.
Yeah, and I think that takes a lot of time as well to figure out what suits you better as well. So I think that's a huge one. And I suppose like you're making a lifestyle choice as well when you get your own business. When you start your own business, at least for me anyway, it was a lifestyle thing. I was like, I can do, I can I work from home. I can do what I want when I want, and
Yeah.
which isn't true. You can't always do what you want when you want, but you can mold a life for yourself where you might work. Like I'd say in a general day, I probably work from about 4 or 5 hours every day.
Yeah.
But when I started, I used to work to like 10 or 12 hours every
Yeah.
day. But I
Yeah.
just over time developed the ways. It's all these little things that I'm doing to
Yeah.
get more confined, I suppose. And it's good.
Yeah, no, it's very, very good. And it's funny what you're saying about college. Like there's something is in college, probably because it's all new to you as well.
It's
I
really
just
fun as well.
I remember when I first went to college, like I was just so excited. I was like, because I had never done anything that like I was ever really that happy doing.
Yeah.
Like never anything that was educational but fun as well. Because I had
Yeah.
never really thought about it. And then next minute I was in AIT, and the course there is really fun and everybody's kind of having fun. And so you don't mind too much staying up all night, but like it's different. It's a different setup altogether.
It's so fun and it's really well run course.
Yeah.
And even what we're talking about here is not to bash anything around, because what I'm saying, I remember when I was in college, a lot of people used to say, oh, we didn't even learn anything about business really, right? And you're kind of like, now looking back, I'm like, it would be a biggest waste of time to even try teach anything business wise. You need to spend 3 or 4 years in college learn how to design, so that you don't have to learn how to design when you're out of college. Like I'd say I hit my peak design, like 2 or 3, maybe 4 years after college. I got even better at design, but because I kept studying. Like design is very difficult and very
Yeah.
hard, and it's so complex that you have to continue your study. You can't cover everything in college, and especially the business side of things and dealing with clients and that. It's a whole different game. And my advice for anyone in college is just enjoy, learn how to be a designer, and
Yeah.
enjoy design, and enjoy getting crazy with your ideas, because you learn to hone them in, even if they're really mad. Now, when I was in college, my ideas were crazy. I don't know what, I was like, they were nuts, but I learned how to harness that then and push it out in a compact way that people could understand. But you need to go far before you can do that.
Something that you said to me before that was really good, and it made sense to me when you said it to me, and I think about it all the time. Is that we're like, because you train that hard in college with the conceptual side of things, right? Coming up with ideas and really, really going into a subject, where that really, 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 really works is meeting and talking to clients about their project. If you're presenting work to them, you already have developed the ability to really, really go in and understand whatever they're doing, and then give it to them in this way that they've never seen it before. So that, because I remember you said that to me, I was like, that is true actually,
Yeah.
and it's true big time.
Yeah, you take the style of thinking, like, because sometimes people would say in college you learn to think really conceptually, but sure, how does that ever translate into
Well, it was big time.
business? But what you actually have to do is, right, so say in college your project might be make visual representation of this chapter in a book, and it could be mad, right, because you're going nuts, but you're learning how to do that by breaking down the chapter, doing the research, picking out what words are taking, what is the meaning of the chapter, what's the actual meaning of the chapter, why do people like this, why do I like this? You're asking all these, and you're going deep into it, and then you're going studying all those things, and what you come out with at the end is kind of irrelevant, really. It's the process of doing that. But like you're saying, where that works really well is if you're doing a logo design for a big company and they're paying you 10 grand to do the logo, right? You go and find out all that stuff about what people need to see from this logo, or why do people like this business? What does this business make people feel? How do they feel when they do it? Who are the people? And you go in and you really heavily study all that stuff. You will be able to make a logo, right? But if you can talk about it when you're presenting it to them confidently, that's answering all these questions that they might not even have thought of, but that are so important to their business. If you can talk about logo for 45 minutes to an hour in a meeting with them, building it up, hyping it up, let's go. They're going to love it, because regardless of what it even looks like. That's why sometimes when you see logos and people don't like logos, I'm like, well, don't be so quick to judge. You don't know what went on behind the logo or what they needed to do. Absolutely. And that's where you really you get that mad thinking and then confine it to work on other things. You can apply it to work on other things. That's kind of, I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, totally. Like it's that you're able to connect with them emotionally about a logo, and that's massive.
Yeah. Because, and you would probably even know yourself, sometimes when you would show someone a logo, they're kind of like, if you don't do that, they're like, okay, what next? What's next?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I always kind of, before I'm presenting the logo, chat first, talk first, like talk about what we were talking about, bringing up kind of almost retracking what we were talking about and making it relate to what I'm about to show them. And then, because it's all about connections, like, and that's the problem that we talked about at the beginning of, this guy who was working on this logo, all different logos every week for 3 months until they got to the right one. There's no connection between him, the client, the logo.
He's just sending in pictures and hoping that your man will pick one of them.
Just pictures. Like, how many logos do you see a day? Yeah. Like this one has to mean something to him. It has to mean not as much to him, but to him and the work that he's doing. There has to be that connection. And if there's not, sure, it's just, I'll send you a JPEG of any logo.
Yeah, and here's an example of this, right? Because sometimes it's hard to understand what we're talking about here, right? So I was thinking of this the other day. I was out for a run and I was thinking of how to transcribe this. Let's see if it makes sense, right? If you're making a logo for a coffee shop, right? To do the research so that the person who owns the coffee shop cares about this, right? Now, this is your job. If you're a brand designer and you're coming in to do a brand for a coffee shop, instead of just, the customer might say to you, like, we make the best coffee. We're in business since 1982. We're local, blah, 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 right? That's not, let's figure out, why do people come here though, right? So first of all, you'd have to ask the client, like, what is it that you want from this? And normally they'll say, we want more people to come in, more customers to come in. So then you have to start thinking, right, well, why do people come in here? And well, for coffee. Yeah, but like, why do you come in for coffee? So this is bringing in your college thinking, right? It's getting conceptual. It's like, what do you
Yeah,
mean? Why do you come in for coffee? Well, what do you come in for coffee? To drink a cup of coffee? It's not that though, really, is it? There's something else. I can drink a cup of coffee anywhere.
you can drink it at home. You can
I
make
could,
one.
yeah. So I could drink instant coffee here, blah, blah. No, what do you do for coffee? When you have a coffee, when I go into town, so then I think of myself, right? Sometimes I'm like, this is to get it rolling, right? When I go into town, I go for coffee. It's like a break. It's like I'm out. I'm gone away. I'll go in the coffee shop, sit in the corner, and have my coffee. Now I'm out of the world. No one's there. Good luck. I can do my own thing now. I can read that thing I wanted to read. I can look at that thing. Maybe I can think that thing. Maybe I'll just sit here and stare at people. It's almost like I'm invisible when I go. So I'm just stepping out of reality. I'm opening the door, stepping out of reality for 10 minutes while I drink my coffee. And why do I go to this coffee shop instead of all the other ones? Because the experience is better. I like the people that work there. No one talks to me, maybe, people
Yeah.
might leave me, or there's books there that you can read, or the window is really nice. You can look out the window. This is the experience of having the coffee. So if we're going to make, and then what you do is you go like, so who comes in here? Who wants this experience? So we pick, the business, the young business woman, the the optician, the person who works in the sports shop, all these different kinds of people. So why do each one of these people come in here? So it's all probably for a certain experience. Maybe they like holding the coffee when they walk around. It's like, I have the coffee. There's all these different things that you have to bring in. Then you have to go, well, what would the logo look like for this, right? So if you're building all that around the logo and then you show the people the logo, it's totally different than saying, well, this logo represents the coffee bean that you use, and this one has your date on it, and this one says, shop local. So this, it's total difference.
What you're doing there is like your world building.
Yeah, you're building a store.
You're building a whole world around their thing, and like that's how something as simple as we're trying to get more people in to sell more coffee can become this whole other thing. And then what that is then is that's original to them, rather than this.
And yeah, exactly. You're right, because that's a lot of people always say, like, I don't know what's different about my business, but you have to. Everyone has something different about business. You have to go find out what it is, and that's what it is. So now let's say the coffee shop that we're talking about that we made here. Now they have a new thing they can do. Like, we're not focusing on selling coffee now. We're focusing on selling the experience. And it can all advertise. You can do videos around it. Step out of reality, or rainy Saturdays in walking your dog, bring your dog. You know what I mean? Like, it's all these different fucking things. So,
and more often than not, people, someone, because it sometimes is it's an unusual thing to do, to go and open a business. So they're actually the people that have the best stories, anyways.
Yeah.
They're the people who have something to say that is different than everybody else. Their thing is different to the next person's thing, because there's loads of coffee shops, but your one's different because you're different. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and everyone is, they know the answer. You see, this is the thing. The client knows the answer, but they might not know it.
Yeah.
You have to go find where it is. Where is it?
The fact that you can connect with them through that, then you're showing them the thing that they knew, but they never thought about it in that way.
Yeah. And you probably get that out of people go, I never thought of it like that, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Because so sometimes even people will be like, because they know, like, it's like when someone says something to you, if you've had a problem, right? Say if I have a problem about something that's not design related or whatever, and then you have also had that problem, let's say, or you understand my problem, and you say it's kind of like this, and it's like, boom.
Yeah, and it connects them. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're showing them what problem they're solving for their customer. And the coffee shop thing that I just said there, the problem they're solving is they're giving them that little break from reality, or their little break, step out of life. That's what you're solving.
How much cooler is that than we sell coffee?
Yeah, than just dry roast French coffee or something. No one's going out of their way to get that, but they are going out of their way to get the other thing. Then you can exploit that. Boom. We do it through it, not exploit, but I mean communicate through everything. So it's building there. We're already building a brand now. Oh, maybe instead of focusing on the coffee so much, we'll focus on the experience. How can we make the experience better? Maybe we'll get this done in the shop. Maybe we'll get a big window there. Or maybe we'll have a flap for dogs to come, and all these different things. So, but look, that's, you know what, Ryan, you could go on about that all day, my man.
I'd be out by the time we stop talking about that.
Yeah. Well, listen, Ryan, it's
Yeah.
a pleasure having you on the first podcast.
You know,
And where can we find you? What's your website?
RyanHoey.com. Very, very, very original, right? Well,
Very
it is
good.
original. I am Ryan Hoey, actually.
Yeah, and it's Hoey, isn't it?
Hoey. High in Port Arlington.
Yeah, in Port Arlington we got a high.
Yeah, I'm in a weird middle ground now where I don't live in Port Arlington anymore. I still am Port Arlington in all of my senses, but in that has caused confusion my whole life. I don't know what to say
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, because high, the way we say it would be High.
Yeah, Ryan High.
Yeah, it's a confusing one. That's so anyway, that's where you find you, and on Instagram then as well. You're Ryan.
Ryan High GD.
Excellent stuff. Ryan, pleasure having you. Have a great day, my man.
Cheers, Dale. Thank you, man.